Okay, education. So we're going to start in a weird way about education. It seems like totally out there, but India's public transport rape problem. So India has a problem with that, and moving back to Sri Lanka, we've got a groping problem, and all of this stems in one of the problems I'm going to talk about education in these kind of countries, and definitely in Sri Lanka, it's segregated schools. See, when you go to school with only your own gender, though nowadays, cancel alert, okay, this is the kind of stuff we get cancelled for. You know, if you're going to say there are two genders, I'm sure there's a lot of pushback on that, but either way, if you're going to go to school with only boys or only girls, now I'm talking from a male perspective, the girl comes first as a sexual object as opposed to a person, and there's, you know, like when we went to school, it was totally, you know, co-ed mixed. It was the person first and the genitalia second, yeah. But in a segregated system, it's the other way around, and that is the root of the problem, right? So now this is about Sri Lanka, yeah, and what we should focus on is the change that we can implement, and there the important change is we need to desegregate these schools. And I use segregate because yes, they desegregated American schools, and it has to happen. And this is a total attack against the holy cow schools of Sri Lanka, your Royals, your St. Thomas's, and so on and so forth, and your ladies' colleges and whatever. Because school should be a microcosm of society. When you go to work, there's no segregation here, yeah? You're not going to just work with males or females. So how can school educate you to be a good citizen, a functioning member of society, when it shows you something which is not representative of that society, right? And it's not about just having male only buses, female only buses, security guards on those, right? The humanity of the person should precede the gender of the person, and that is very difficult, and I'm going to be very specific, from the male to the female, when there is that gender segregation in the school. Yeah, that's problem number one. This is why this is called cancel culture, right? Imagine, just imagine, you want to desegregate Royal or Ladies College. Just imagine what a huge uproar that would be, because these are the hallowed institutions, yeah. And number two is this education as teacher worship and memorization, yeah. If all you're going to learn in school in like 12 years is whatever the teacher says is gospel truth, worship the teacher, then memorize a huge tract of esoteric like stuff that seems to have no relevance to reality, and then for 2 hours just vomit that out, metaphorically, right? How is this going to help the average individual cope with the challenges of life, yeah? Just think about it. I've gone to school, I've taken some bow leaves, worshipped the teacher once a term, got him or her a huge gift, who doesn't attend most of the time because the teachers are unionized, and then the other side of it is I've just like memorized huge tracts of whatever, this and that, which has very little link with reality, especially in a developing country. What are the skills that the average person needs to combat and to thrive here? I'll give you an example, yeah? Reading a map, as in that Google map. Half of the Uber drivers are like, where are you? And I'm also like, it's on the map. See, we have got to understand that in a country like this, those are the jobs that are generated, and in any country actually, those may be the majority of jobs. But if you're going to teach them like high-end, further mathematics and all of that stuff, and then worship the teacher, how is this going to help them on a daily basis? How is this going to help them in the job market? So two distinct problems, yeah? One thing is the objectification, and it's not the other way. It's definitely male to female, yeah? The objectification of the woman as a sexual object, because it's so removed, right? It's so removed. You never see the girl in a segregated school on a Tuesday morning, you know, writing some notes, playing some basketball or whatever, yeah? You see them just as a woman, right? And then the deprivation. Guys have to have girls who are just friends. The absence of platonic relationships. The absence of platonic relationships is really hurting these countries in the segregated education system. People have got to understand that there are romantic relationships, there are intimate relationships, and there are platonic relationships. How could you learn that when school is not the microcosm of that? So that's one thing. And the other thing is, what are we learning? After literacy is done and numeracy is done very weakly. After literacy and numeracy is done, what are you doing? You're just like trying to pass an exam, yeah? So this is a fundamental thing that has to change to help this country. Yeah, you can have all this district education, whatever, and then this government can say all this stuff about we are going to help education, but it's the philosophy of education that must change, not more funding for the same thing. Yeah? All right. I would imagine, what do you say, a very controversial take on education, like go up against the holy cows, the institutions, as well as helping people in their practical day-to-day lives. In the end, in any country, most people are not going to become astrophysicists. So why are we learning that? Can we learn something that can help you cross the road, cook your dinner, help you get the jobs that are available here? And also the lost part is, and this is a very important thing, is this discipline. If being a good citizen becomes just tucking your shirt in and having the hem length of your skirt below a particular level, see, how does that affect the outcomes of society? Yeah? When you go out into the workplace, people may have crazy hair, they may have their individual styles. Michel Foucault, the philosopher, called discipline and punish. Yeah? They've made this regimen where you are good if you obey their arbitrary rules of your hair shouldn't be below the length of your nose if you're a guy, and the very opposite if you're a girl, right? This is just a power dynamic where the powerful in that particular arena are exerting their control and getting Freud would say, a sexual pleasure from that dominance. But it has nothing to do with helping them in society. The moment the teacher cracks the whip, there's a dopamine release in her head. Now that doesn't help us in society, right? There's a lot to process there. All right, so that was cancel culture. Remember, don't subscribe, cancel us.